When we were engaged in our research on humanizing the education machine in the Columbus, Indiana summit, we began to recognize that there was a definite taxonomy or hierarchy of learning experiences. In other words, the experience the student receives. We found that 50% of schools are leaving kids behind. So these children have very little chance at upward mobility, or what we call the American dream. And we broke those into two categories in our taxonomy. One were the survival schools that we can see here. The other were the custodial schools, the schools that just house kids and fail them forward. And it's shocking that 50% of our kids fall into one of these kinds of schools or communities. The second level is what we called the well-schooled but poorly educated. Well-schooled because they're getting the reading, writing, arithmetic, test prep, and moving on into college or even career. What they're not getting are what we call the 21st century non-cognitive skills of communication, creativity, initiative, grit, these kinds of non-cognitive skills that are being provided by what we call the future-ready schools. And we broke about 45% of our schools into that well-schooled but poorly educated. And we divided that into two categories. One were the traditional schools, and then the enhanced schools, the ones that provide extracurricular activities where they're covering the cost of that, or they have the International Baccalaureate or the advanced AP classes. And about 5%, 10 to 5% of our schools are what we might call future ready. These are schools that are preparing kids to work well with others, to have kind of a deeper value structure, take initiative, solve problems, these kinds of skills that the workforce is dying for and not receiving. Now, in this research, we found an interesting parallel. So you can see Maslow's chart is right next to it. When we went to Los Angeles and went to RISE, which is the school in South Central LA for homeless, the interesting thing there is we didn't hear a lot of the kinds of conversations around what you might consider test prep or academics. It was all around helping kids find a place to sleep that night, making sure they had groceries to take home to their family, helping their family with social services, wraparound services so that they can function well, stabilizing their lives. And when we debriefed and unpacked that, what we found is that their success, 50% of those kids go to college and graduate. The success of that is because they're stabilizing those bottom areas. And then the kids can learn because they're not burdened down with just survival instincts. So we found that the taxonomy of learning overlaps very nicely with Maslow's hierarchy. And we find that the bottom rung really, that there's different strategies in our taxonomy. So that's going to be new. We're going to talk about that as a new idea in this next research. So when we're touring the schools next week, what I'd like you to do is look through the lens of Maslow's hierarchy and the taxonomy. What are the kids dealing with? Are they dealing with kind of these basic needs, or are they in this stabilized area where we can build, or are they in these higher purpose values, this self-esteem level, the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy, so that they're able to do this more future-ready, non-cognitive kind of work. So that'll be an interesting exercise for us next week. Thank you.